What's up, everybody? Greg and Ryan here, and we are diving into Season 2 of Jordan Peele's The Twilight Zone.
Now, before we do that, of course, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen this episode yet, get out of here and then come on back here. Now, this episode's titled Among the Untrodden. Okay, so the plot of this episode reads, transfer student Irene's unusual interest makes her an easy target at her all-girls boarding school until she discovers that popular classmate Madison possesses a unique talent. All right, Ryan, this episode kicks off with Irene, played by Sophia Macy. She's at a new all-girls boarding school, and immediately, of course, she's bullied. The lead bully, Madison, is played by newcomer Abbie Hern. The name Madison should remind you of another mean girl, Madison, of course, Madison Montgomery from AHS. Now, this clique immediately starts bullying Irene in the first scene, so we're starting to get a little bit of a Carrie vibe here. Now, before you can go any further, take quick note of this scene. When Madison asks for a pencil, she looks in her desk first. You see there's nothing there. She's looking inside of it, nothing. And she's looking on top of her desk in her notes, her book, can't find a pencil. So she goes back down, there's a pencil there. Madison pulls the pencil out and then throws it at her head before it disintegrates like a Thanos snap. And so this sets up easily one of my favorite episodes of the entire run of the new Jordan Peele Twilight Zone series. It's great.
Yeah, that disintegrating pencil, when you look at it in hindsight, it's clear what you could have expected. For me, it was lingering in the back of my mind the entire episode. I'm not even surprised by how it came back, but I still wasn't totally expecting what we got by the end.
So for the school science fair project, Irene wants to do like an "Are you a psychic?" test. She does it, and someone comes back with a perfect 0 score. It's Madison, and this has Irene thinking that maybe Madison's picking the wrong answers on purpose, that she knows the right ones. So she goes up to her and confronts her about this whole entire thing.
Right, or she could even be getting them wrong unconsciously on purpose.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's like her psychicness is why she's getting it wrong. Madison agrees to go along with Irene's research, maybe out of pity, and Irene sets up the girls' room in the basement with some candles, gets some Zener ESP cards, and a bunch of her books on psychic phenomena to begin their research. And before we talk about the plot anymore, I want to talk about this bathroom, because it looked nuts. It's shot amazingly, and it's one of the best sets we've seen in the show to date. So they figure out that Madison's got something going on, and they sort of become friends at this point.
Yes, they grow a bond together. It's a small one, but it's there. They for the help of to help out Madison's abilities to become whatever she's doing with her powers. Irene, she's gonna help her out here in like a oh god, can't buy me love kind of thing. It's not that at all. But it just you get those vibes of like hey. You help me out, trying to, my hair is, like, she's straightening my hair and all these other things with Irene to, to become closer with everyone else there at the school, while at the same time, Madison's getting help from Irene with her powers.
As Madison and Irene get closer, Madison sort of starts to distance herself a bit more from her original friends, and she starts using her powers for power.
Yes. Here we go. The evil side of things starts to come out, obviously, with Madison. She's picking on other girls at the school, reading their minds. And what's great about this scene, too, is the that Faustian balance. You don't know whether or not Irene is really pulling the strings here in the background, because she is there. She's out there the entire time as Madison's just becoming more and more evil as we go on. Even in the scene with the professor or dean at the end where she's threatening her, that she knows that she stole money from the school and all these things. And you can just see Irene in the background watching, like almost like she's egging her on, like, yes, do it, good. It's so great.
This is the point where things start to get a little weird, because to be honest, for me, I thought that Irene was kind of the protagonist up until this point, and that she was kind of the, like, almost lapdog to, like, awakening the powers in Madison's character. And here we finally see that Madison can actually conjure objects by thinking about them. That leads to them getting a key for roof access to the building.
And we learn that that key only works for as long as she needs them.
We've seen that before with a pencil at the beginning of the episode, right?
Again, this isn't the first time she's done it, but we don't know who did it yet. We don't know if it's Madison or Irene. Who's running the strings here? But at this point, it's starting to turn more to Madison anyways, because as you said earlier, as we can see, like the lens, the POV is back on Madison as the main character. Earlier, we thought it was going to be Irene, again, with the Carrie vibes, but that's not the case.
Right, because of what happens here. The gals are drinking, the older friends of Madison are making fun of Irene, and Irene falls off the roof.
It's over for Irene at this point. You're thinking, all right, that's it. Obviously, you know of the new power that Madison has. So at this point, you're wondering, what is she going to do? Irene comes back from the dead. And everyone's thinking at this point, it's got to be Madison who's doing this to her. Or again, it could still be Irene. We don't know yet.
This is actually where I took the turn and thought maybe Irene is the dangerous one.
Yes.
Like, she fell and lived.
I thought that too. I thought, oh, she's really bad. She's really evil. This is where I thought, again, she's the devil. This is now, we're going back to another Twilight Zone trope. But nope, the writing here is excellent. So we move over to the science fair where, of course, everything's going to be kicked to an 11 at this point. Irene, she's spent all of her time with Madison on her original project, was going to be on becoming a psychic, and her new one is pretty lackluster, to say the least. From there, she sees a bunch of girls, like, laughing, so she heads over and sees that, oh, there's a new project now called the Anatomy of a Loser. Cool. And this is the Carrie part of this episode where you're like, all right, everybody's going to die, as Irene starts to scream and the room starts rattling and shaking and the TVs start bursting, and of course the girls that were bullying her start dropping dead like flies. Yes, Marcos. I don't think we can show a scene from that. I would love to. Marcos. If we could maybe censor around it, please watch Suspiria. We did a review on it too. It's amazing. Now, Madison sees this whole thing go down, which leads to Irene and Madison in a screaming match back at the bathroom where they're both pointing fingers at each other saying, no, you're the one, you're the one, you're the one, you're the one pulling the strings here. And then at the end of the day, they have this heartwarming moment. And I just love the way this scene breaks down from beginning to end, the screaming match, the acting between the two of them. That means we have to give a shout out to the director, Tyresha Poe. I hope I did not butcher that name, but come on back for more episodes of this series because this was an amazing acting job, and obviously the director had a huge hand in that. The scene culminates with Irene and Madison finally deciding, you know what, you really did help me out here. Let's be friends. And so now Irene, she's doing the whole, you know what, Mr. Tony Stark, I don't feel so good. Boom, she starts to evaporate. Listen, the episodes for Twilight Zone so far have been, they've been actually happy endings to, bittersweet endings to anything from, not even really anything so much of a real twisted ending. We haven't had anything like that from like a Tales of the Crypt kind of ending or anything like that until now for this season. This one was just dark for this moment. I thought if they dropped the ending here, I'm like, oh man, this is pretty dark, but I still love it. I was waiting for an episode like this, and finally we got one.
It doesn't end there. It comes back sometime later. Madison's in the classroom, and a new timid blonde girl shows up for class. Jordan Peele comes in as the narrator and breaks down that Madison was indeed the psychic. Her chief power was the ability to use things until they were finished their purpose.
Ooh, so it makes you wonder, like, how far does Madison's powers go? Does it just go with every new girl? Does she keep doing this? Obviously, at some point, the other girls in the class will be like, wait, this is weird. But with that said, how far is her powers? How many things can she create? Other girls in the room also part of this? We don't know.
I mean,
but with that said...
That's a fun thing to think about, right?
Yeah,
which is
I love it.
How far does it go? Like, the whole school could be in her mind. Like, if you want to go that far, I like to go that far.
On face value, I want to go that far too and say she's created the whole thing. Like she's the mastermind. She's the Wanda. She's Wanda and Marvel. But I think on face value, she just created Irene and the new girl that showed up. Maybe.
Right. Even on face value. But if we take it at face value, it's interesting, right? Because it still doesn't answer the question of who took the girls out at the science fair because Irene could still have powers.
She could have,
even though she was created by Madison, it doesn't mean we don't know what the rules of this universe are. The psychic could create another psychic.
I love thinking about that because, it could be Madison created a new person, a new human or a new being that has their own powers too. So Irene could have, done that and killed the girls. But at the same time, it could have been Madison who has more powers than we know of. We don't know the extent of Madison's powers probably too. And now it's time for things we noticed and Easter eggs.
Full disclosure, CBS on the official Twilight Zone Twitter account has dropped a Easter eggs video for this episode, and we definitely took advantage of that to source a couple of them. So a few of those are in here, and a few of these we found on our own.
The title of this episode comes from a 12-line ballad, She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways, written by English Romantic poet William Wordsworth. In the poem, the narrator mourns the loss of a woman who died young in the English countryside and whose beauty and virtue were overlooked in life. Whipple's back, of course. You can spot the name on a typewriter at the beginning of the episode. This is a tribute to the classic episode, The Brain Center at Whipple's.
Good evening, happy family members and stockholders of the W.V. Whipple Manufacturing Corporation.
Next up, during the girls' dorm party, we see them drinking King 9 Ale. This is a tribute to the classic episode from 1960, King 9 Will Not Return, where a World War II pilot gets separated from his crew.
Also, the girls are drinking Bedecker vodka. That name should sound very familiar to old school fans of the 1959 classic episode Escape Clause, where hypochondriac Walter Bedecker sells his soul in exchange for immortality to the devil.
Also during the party, you can spot that In Canon Minx magazine, which was featured earlier in the Season 2 episode Ovation.
And during the science fair, you can spot a light exhibit that looks very similar to a robot that terrorized Barbara Polk in the Season 5 episode Uncle Simon.
Back in the episode The Who of You, we can see that the teens are wearing the uniform from St. Mary's that are featured in this episode. And lastly, the ability to sort of will things into and out of existence reminds me of It's a Good Life, where the kid is able to just wish people away whenever he doesn't like them. All right, Greg, let's get into our overall impressions of this episode.
They finally did a coming-of-age story, and I loved it. This is easily one of my favorite episodes of the entire run for Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone. There's been some great episodes in the past, but this one, it hit all the marks for me. Now, we've already seen a million times the story of, the world's coming to an end, or the cursed object, or the person down on their luck, and this time it's just a straight-up tale of just, wanting that bond, that friendship, and just wanting to fit in. The set design and the cinematography are excellent. At times, that gothic grunge felt like a mashup of Smells Like Teen Spirit and The Social Network. Matthias Herndl did an incredible job as always. Heather Ann Campbell, who wrote the last season's episode Not All Men, which sent the comment sections for our breakdown into a tailspin, wrote this episode, and I can't wait for her next. And finally, newcomer Abbie Hern is going to be a star. Enough said.
I'm going to have to basically echo all of your comments here. I just love that they decided to do a high school drama genre style story complete with soundtracky montages. It should be incongruous, but it works well with the themes of the season so far, where each episode has featured a main character struggling with aspiration, dissatisfaction, and privilege. There's also a clear recognition of school bullying in the Peele Twilight Zone's tradition of recognizing issues in modern society. And then I really love the absolutely inappropriate cinematography and production design that do not match the setting of the story, but they keep the zony feel going in a totally playful, fun way. That's what we thought of episode 5 of the Twilight Zone season 2. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of the episode.
I hope you enjoyed it. We've always battled back and forth here at this point. When we really love an episode, everyone hates it, or when we hate it, everyone loves it. So let's see how this one goes. We'll see you all back here next week for episode 6. Which is 8.
8.
Bye-bye.